It came from a lot of conversations that were held with the national finance leaders about their concerns that we weren't getting enough of the right people coming through for finance vacancies. We had quite a lot of posts that weren't filled, quite a lot of interim or acting arrangements because we couldn't get the right people coming forward to take on what are really challenging jobs. So Paul Bowman and Bob Alexander from the Finance Leadership Council were really keen that we were doing something where we were reaching out and finding the talent that we knew was in our system, but then sort of taking hold of those people and encouraging them and supporting them to become part of our national talent, to be acknowledged as that and to be putting themselves forward for the roles. And I think it was that genesis of the need for something to be happening, and that combined with some work that HFMA did for us, looking at what it is that's stopping people coming forward, if you like. And from that we moved into, well, we need some sort of programme that identifies who our talented people are, reaches out to them and supports them to become as good as they can be and be acknowledged as people who are ready for that next step. And from there we moved on into, so we'll call it a national talent pool, set up a steering group, and here we are today.
I think the first thing is really to communicate the commitment and the bravery of this programme to pick up a cohort of finance leaders. That's very symbolic that we take enough time and attention to develop people. People might think, well, who cares? Why should I try? Well, you should try because we care, and we care enough to develop this programme. So we've now got 30 potential leaders of the future. We need to help those 30 leaders become the best leaders that they can be, and also role models for the next 30 and the next 30. So we need to develop a conveyor belt of leadership. And again, invest in people and see if they invest in themselves.
I think it's just great for there to be opportunities for people that are aspiring to become directors of finance, and as Kathy said this morning, there hasn't been something like that for a while in the NHS, and I feel ready to take that next step.
For me, I'm an ex-finance trainee, so I'm really supportive in everyone starts somewhere. And particularly I remember being a trainee and I was sort of, I'd love to be a director of finance one day, and it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to manage that journey, and I think it's a tough journey actually. So I think a programme that helps take senior leaders and just give them some tailored support and coaching is absolutely fantastic. So I remember what that was like for someone to take you under the wing and say this is a safe space to make some mistakes and we're going to help you. And I think at the moment it's quite tough in the NHS when you make that leap from a deputy to director to have a safe space and some coaching and support. So I think the programme for me is a first class at helping people with that.
I think the longer term goal of the project, I think what our national leaders would like to see is that when an advert comes out for a finance leader job, they have a really good short list of people who have grown through the service and become ready to take on that role and are applying for it. That's the difference we're really hoping to make. Working as part of a director team and working with a board is really exciting. You take a very broad role of an organisation, step well beyond sort of financial boundaries and financial responsibilities. I think if you enjoy helping shape where an organisation is going and what's happening and what its priorities are, you get such an opportunity to do all of those things that make a real difference to services and to patients. And I just think that that's something you don't get offered in any other sector or in any other role. Reaching that board level role, taking that responsibility and meeting the public and the patients and really trying to make a difference for them, I think is what it's all about.
I think the toughest bit as a CFO is the ability to know the answers to everyone's questions. And I think when you're a deputy, the answers are generally numbers driven, so you get asked a question and you can look at the numbers and you can say, look, something looks unusual because of this number or that. When you become the director of finance, it's a lonely place. When you're the deputy, you kind of take bad news into your boss and say, it's bad news, I don't know what you're going to do about it, but there you go. When you're the CFO, actually you've got to own that problem and actually work out, is something a problem? Is it a one-off? How do you deal with that? What's the right answer? Do you panic? Do you speak with colleagues? Do you try and get more information? And do you know what, sometimes there's never a perfect answer.
I've been a Deputy Finance Director for about 10 years, so I'm now looking for that next step up. I've outgrown my role. So my sort of key development areas for me are kind of wider system management, system leadership, and trying to get a better understanding of what the broader finance director role is about. So this is a good way for me to get that, but also have that broader network as well of people who are in a very similar situation to myself. So I started in NHS Finance about 20 years ago at what is now Heart of England Foundation Trust. And I now have been a Deputy Finance Director for about 10 years, 4 years in Stoke, and then I've been at Worcestershire Acute for the last 6 years. And 3 months ago I got promoted to Acting Director of Performance.
So I've actually been in the NHS for 15 years so far. I have always been in a acute provider, been in a number of different challenging organisations, but I feel like I've always learned whatever role I've been in, which is just great because it just adds to your experience.
I think this is a really great idea to have the talent pool, because going from a deputy to a director is a huge step up, and some people make that change easier than others, but at the moment with all the challenges that we've got in terms of financial challenges around quality, it's such a difficult environment to work in the NHS, so that step has got even bigger now. So I think this is a great idea to have the national talent pool to actually give people some support to be able to make that step and be successful at that level, because you've got to hit the ground running and start performing straight away, because the challenges are so great. So I think, very, very pleased that this has come along.
Get that network and infrastructure that you can pick up the phone, forward on an email to a situation like this, 30 other individuals you've now met that you can network with. That for me is a key recommendation. I feel like any job, as you get more senior, you get further away from the hands-on. So if you're a district nurse manager, you actually don't do much district nursing, and actually it's the same in finance, whereas CFO or indeed the district nurse manager brings something different as the experience to say what feels right, and in my experience what would I do differently. And I think there is a difference as you get more senior, that you get less technical in the detail and need to look at some of the bigger picture, and we've tested some of that today with the candidates about how do you make decisions that are right for patients that might not be right for your organisation. How do you do something in the best interest of the NHS and the values of the NHS rather than just about your own organisation, which is difficult, and it really is. And I think all of these things are some of the challenges that hopefully from this programme we can get people ready to make some of those decisions in a supported way.
Thinking about why we are here at all, for me it's about getting the best finance leaders. And the reason that matters is that if you've got really good financial leadership, then you're going to be able to help make services better for patients and for the population. And absolutely, that's why these people should be in the room.
It has to be the patient every time. The organisations come and go, the patients are always there. Patients have to come first. And that's one of the balancing acts of the NHS, of course.
I think it starts with the recruitment. I think you need to have the right level of diversity coming through in the first place, and that's kind of how do we recruit and where do we go about recruiting. And then it's recognising that some of the cultural differences that the different ethnic minorities have, and how we can support those, and also how we train our leaders and our recruiters on equality and diversity, I think better than we do at the moment, because we tend to recruit in our own image. So if you look for certain things that you see in yourself, and you don't necessarily recognise traits in other cultural backgrounds because they see things slightly differently. So I think it's cultural awareness from the leadership and looking at how we recruit, but also in between, I think it's about how we pick out the talent and support that talent to come through in the same way that now we're looking at having talent pools of finance directors. I think we probably need something similar for ethnic minorities in terms of having talent pools that we support and help people to get through. Because I think there's a big step you have to get over, but I think once you get the right level of representation at the higher levels, then it starts to work better, I think, anyway. And if I look at the number of ethnic minority people we've got on this scheme itself, I guess it doesn't represent the overall population. But then again, I think from the number that applied, it probably represents the right proportion from the number that applied. So how do we get more people applying? And some of that is around people having the confidence to do that and recognising their own abilities. So I think there is more that we can do in terms of supporting people to progress.
We've had 2 participants who would have been here today who have already taken that step to a finance director role and therefore aren't on this programme, and someone else has been able to come instead. So we would hope to see over the next 12-18 months that people who are on the talent management programme are able to put themselves forward for roles, and that they start to have some success in actually achieving those roles. So that's the premise of the programme. But not everybody will do that in the next 18 months. But if they all develop and all come on and all become ready for that next step, that's really what we're about.
Really, I just like to say to people, this is a great programme, and if you have the opportunity in the future, please become involved and be the best leader you can be.